Bases dropped, and I got it right. Of course, it's the last day down here at Hemingway Estates in the Gulf of Mexico. John here, you there, and it's another round of soccer down here. Yesterday, not going to lie, it was a rough day. And, when you have stuff like what broke yesterday, the unfortunate passing of Anton Walkes at the age of 25. Morning, Niall and Alex. Good morning to all of you. Like I said, it was as we talked about on the show, and thanks to everybody, Twitch pitch all across the board, Willie P and Jess for dropping by, and all of you for dropping by. It's just a reminder, and we take those reminders sadly, and we go forward. But today is another day, and our friends from Beyond Goals should be with us at the bottom of the hour, and we'll discuss what has been going on in the Atlanta United universe with Anton and with Joseph. We'll get into that. Yeah, Niall's spot on. It was nice to see tributes from a lot of folks. Spurs with theirs, all the kind words that were said from the other side of the Atlantic as we do the show, and all the tributes here in the United States, fans of Major League Soccer, all the organizations reaching out. And so, once again, there was the supporters groups in Charlotte who had their vigil, I want to say 4:00 yesterday afternoon. And you see the pictures that have been drifting out of Charlotte because of all of that. And you had the ISC, Abby and everybody that's out in Albuquerque at the ISC had the chance to get together. And my guess is probably put some ideas together as to how to continue to remember Anton come the regular season. So we'll find out about that stuff as we go forward. But it is Friday. There's a lot to talk about. And it is on the field. It is off the field. There's gossip, rumor, and innuendo. That could take place in hour number 2. There's a lot of news on the board this morning. And here's just to show you, for those of you who are watching the live version on Twitch, this is how I pretty much work through the day. Is I'll sit there and I'll come up with a bunch of different things and I'll write them all down. And it's like, okay, how many of these do we actually get to? And so that's the key in all of this. But opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And there's your QR code for those of you who are watching live on Twitch with Kickoff Coffee CO, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchases with our friends at Kickoff Coffee. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game. And very, very cool stuff from our friends, always at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. I figured I'd kind of go off the board this morning. I know that shocks you. Yesterday, and we have here at SDH, we have our production chain. We have our constant conversation that we have. It's like, okay, idea here, conversation here. Listen to this. This is really cool. Yesterday, being down here in Hemingway Estates, staring at the Gulf of Mexico, you run out of stuff. You run out of things in your fridge, and there's only so much that delivery can do. And going to pick up food and things like that. So you've got to make the dash, and you've got to go into the stores, and you've got to come up with the random list of things that you always have to get. And I was in the store yesterday, and I came across, and for those of you that once again, never too far away, it's right here. The Mountain Dew, since I'm not a coffee drinker, it's right there with me. And it is apparent that Mountain Dew has decided to come out with like a 48th flavor, and it's adding pineapple to Mountain Dew. And I was like, no. And it goes with all of the others. I mean, and you can chalk it up to me being 107 years old and set in my ways and, get out of my yard guy when it comes to food and things and drinking things like that. So they've come out with another flavor, and it apparently has pineapple in it. And I was instantly just like, nope, not going to happen. I want to ask all of you out there with your favorite food and drink. Do you have a snack? And sometimes they go too far in your mind. It's like, just give me the original and I'm a happy guy. It's just like, I'll take this and I'm cool. Do you have a snack and this particular snack goes into too many different variants, morning cocoa? And do they go too far? And you can share which one it is if you want. You can just say, yes, I have a snack food that goes too far with their varieties, those kinds of things. Does your favorite snack, does your favorite drink, do they go too far with their ideas sometimes? And trying to figure out how to saturate the market and pull market share and these kinds of things. They figure if we do, I would, okay, Coco is volunteering Coca-Cola. And the irony, the irony there is not lost on me. Coco's mentioning Coke. So Coco is mentioning Coke, having gone too far in their varieties. And Niall agreeing. And the end. Yes, the end all. Thank you. Because, and thank you for backing me up on that. Because the end all is saying Mountain Dew. Because, all right, so let me see if I can get all of this correct. And if I've missed one, feel free to add to the mix here. And Niall, I'm right there with you. We'll get to that comment in just a second. Okay, so for Mountain Dew end all, let's see if we can remember the original, which is what I've got here. Code Red, the Icy Blast, the one that's green, the not the yellow that we have if we consider Mountain Dew yellow, but like the Icy Mountain Blast. There's the Blue Blast. There's the Blackout. There's Melon. There's Spark. There's this new one with pineapple. What is that, 6 or 7? Pink lemonade, yeah. Thank you, Nix. So there's like 7 different ones. And as I said, being set in my ways as we are here, at least with me, it's just like I love the original. And it's like, yeah, I get the idea that you guys want to, go in a certain direction, but for me, you've gone entirely into two entirely many different directions, if that makes any sense. Wait, whoa, what? Okay, end all. They had a fruitcake. They had a Mountain Dew fruitcake flavor. Seriously? Wow. Okay, I didn't see that one, or I may have, and I may have just blacked it out, just blocked it out of my mind. Wow. Okay, so Mountain Dew, we've come up with like 6, 7, or 8, which is, I think, for me, like 6 or 7 too many. Wow. Yeah, Niall, I'm right there with you. It does sound gross. Niall, contributor Niall with Prim and Proper. Just give me plain or Mexican Coke, and I'm fine. Mexican Coke is, and especially out of the bottle. Coco agrees on Mexicoke and McDonald's Coke being second. I see McDonald's for me when it comes to fast food. I can't go there anymore because they put too much salt on the fries, and so it's just bad stuff for me. So I can't. I'll have to take your word on the McDonald's version of the Coca-Cola, but okay, I'll take you there. Nix, reminding us of pink lemonade. Niall, Fanta's varieties, blueberry and strawberry are pretty good. See, now for me, Fanta, I'm an orange and grape guy, and that's about it. It's like, okay, orange, grape, good. Blueberry, strawberry, that's kind of pushing it a little bit for me. But man, the end all fruitcake. Oh man, I probably did well in Claxton, but I don't know about any place else. That's just wow. Nix, like Coke and cherry Coke, anything else is disgusting. I mean, okay, so for me, I like vanilla Coke because that's something that I had when I was a kid. I can go there. I can go with cherry Coke. Vanilla Coke for me is about the end. And then you have all of the companies that's like, oh, let's try and add cherry, or let's try and add vanilla. And it's a bad mix when they try to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, Niall, I'm right there with you. Fruitcake, if they had a fruitcake Mountain Dew over the holidays, wow, that might have been Fonzie jumping the shark out in front of Arnold's with that one. Coco, McDonald's for food is not good, but the carbonation to syrup ratio they do corporate wide is fantastic. Okay, see, now that's That's good to know. Well, now we're getting into the deep analysis of these things. That's the deep analysis of all this kind of stuff. Because when you're getting into carbonation to syrup ratio, that's a solid analysis. That's good. Nile, fan of cherry Coke. Coke, fan of vanilla Coke. Yeah, I can't go past that either. End all, there's an apple dew. Wow. Okay. All right. There's an apple dew. Okay. I mean, seriously. All right. Nile, yeah, no corn syrup or anything in Mexico. Alex, enjoy a nice egg cream from, you see, and that's really old school, and that's a good pull, because if you can get an egg cream from like your local drugstore, and this would be like when they had the soda fountains, and this is this is really getting into something for folks of a certain age demographic. You're getting into soda fountains. You can just go up to the soda fountain and they give you a nice egg cream, or they give you, or the mix for the sodas that they give you coming out of the fountain. Nothing like also with a fountain getting a nice root beer float or a Coke float. If you go to a soda fountain, those kinds of things are, that's solid as well. And that's, oh, come on. See, and Pacine, you're sitting there, man, you sit there and you toy with me because I'm of a certain demographic. Come on. But I went serious, because seriously, and the local druggists and the soda fountains, they're very, 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 very rare these days. They do exist, but you got to find them, and it's because they're retro. But fine, Alex, fine, you got me. But if you can find a soda fountain, get a nice egg cream, and it's probably north of the Mason-Dixon line. Then you can work your way through all of that stuff. You got me. Fine. Cane sugar and corn syrup. Yes, definitely. And Nile, to Nile's point, sometimes restaurants mess up their sodas as they're watery, which is not good. And Nile, Coke floats. Yeah. So Alex, you go down to the 5 and 10, you go to McCrory's or Woolworths, and you could get baseball card packs for 25 cents a piece. That was what I did every Saturday. I would go to the local drugstore, and my grandfather would say, okay, here's like $5. And I'd get like baseball cards or whatever the season was, 25 cents a pack. And that would be my afternoon. That's how my collection started, is by going to the drugstore. Yes, they had a soda fountain, and we had a rotation, and you would end up going through all these different things, and I'd get all my baseball cards. And that was how I ended up getting, that's how I got my collection. Root beer floats, very, very solid. Very nice. Probably. Yeah. Coco. My guess is that he did. Yeah. That my guess is Coco did. Alex, Google old soda reference or soda fountains. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. So McCrory, Woolworths, soda fountains, root beer float, Coke float, those kinds of things. Okay. Now, Will, this is now a ginger ale float with rainbow sherbet. Wow. Okay. That one we're going to have to file away. You might have to remind us, and it might have to be something done homemade. I mean, we may need a report on that. Yeah, never seen anywhere that had an egg cream. So Alex loves egg cream. And no candy corn is not the best, Niall. It is certainly not. Yeah. Here's a nickel. Don't spend it all in one place. I'd drop it on the bubblegum machines at the front of the grocery store. You sit there and you drop in a nickel, you get like the bubblegum that's about that big. The big piece of bubblegum, you munch on it for like 15 or 20 seconds. So there you go. Okay. So yeah. All right. So Will swears by it. Will swears by Will absolutely swears by the ginger ale float and rainbow sherbet. Yeah, he did. He absolutely did, Michael. He absolutely did. He absolutely did every Saturday. Swear by it. I will swear by it. That's why my collection grew as quickly as it did. Yeah, I saw that, and end all, I did see that Mountain Dew's coming out with a Baja Blast hot sauce, and I was just as scared. And that was also part of the reason why I wanted to bring this stuff up to the table, was because of I saw a picture of that, and I was very frightened. And but Michael, swear by it. I will swear. I will put my hand in the air and the other hand on my heart. $5 in the mid 70s for baseball cards. Absolutely happened. It absolutely happened. Call that a frappe. Okay. All right. And so, okay. So Alex is now referencing It's a Wonderful Life this morning. Alex, I did not know that you worked at old Mr. Gower's place and saved a woman by not delivering her medicine, since Mr. Gower was sad and drunk and accidentally replaced it with rat poison. Okay, so Alex Pacine is living It's a Wonderful Life this morning. Yeah, Michael, he absolutely was. Absolutely was. He absolutely was uber generous. No doubt about it. And Alex, Hee Haw was Saturday nights at 7 on Channel 2, by the way. But yeah, so let's see. Alex has gone through soda fountains, referenced It's a Wonderful Life, and has sent us all off the rails this morning and referencing just how old I actually am. I know we're too deep into it already. But yeah, Will, I think, has made the really interesting ginger ale float rainbow sherbet the homework assignment. Yeah, Michael, and Lawrence Welk was on public broadcasting. I think it was on PBS Saturday nights at 7, if I remember correctly, something like that. Yeah, and yes, and so Coco wants to bring us back to what we normally talk about outside of the opening kickoff, and we can do that for about 8 minutes. And then we'll have our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring pop in from 9:30 and talk about everything else that's going on in the world. Yeah, Memphis for $3 million is now with Atleti. So good piece of business by them. The wandering through the Mountain Dew and too many things in the brand umbrella element was our opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, use the code SOCCERDOWNHERE15 to get 15% off your purchase, and they in turn take 10%, roll it over into the youth game. Very, very cool things with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So that's your opening kickoff this morning. So you've got a lot of movement this morning, and so let's see. Here's the short version, and obviously we'll get into a lot of it after Beyond Goals in hour number 2. We got the transfer tracker in Major League Soccer that includes Christian Ramirez returning from Aberdeen. He's got a new contract. We had talked about it last week that Christian Ramirez was looking at a return. It looked like a 3-year deal, and so it looks like he is returned with Columbus Crew, and that should be pretty decent firepower up top. That's a good piece for Columbus and Wilfred Nancy to add. So you've got Christian Ramirez coming to the Crew. You've got a bunch of other things going on in Major League Soccer. Let's go through the transfer portal briefly, or transfer tracker, or whatever you want to call it. Jordan Morris, Christian Roldan, Danny Leyva signed new deals with Seattle Sounders. You've got the segment that we did yesterday, the show with Nico Moreno, Thursdays with Nico. We talk about Danny Leyva, and he posted it to his Twitter account at El Rolo and W. So that exists as well. DC United mutually parting ways with goalkeeper Rafael Romo. With all the other goalkeepers that were there, Romo pretty much was odd man out. Paxton Pomykal has signed a long-term extension with FC Dallas. And so that's big for Paxton Pomykal through 26, club option 2026. Player initially turning pro during the 2016 season, 4 goals, 12 assists, 102 regular season games with 72 starts for the club. So ever since the age of 16, Paxton Pomykal has been a part of the discussion with FC Dallas, and he will continue to be that way for the next handful of seasons. So that's your transfer tracker involving Major League Soccer. Guerrezo is linked to San Jose. Niall lets us know this morning. 40. So let's see. So Emilio, grandmother used to take you to World War 5 and 10. Cheeseburger Deluxe. Lawrence Welk was a wonderful. Absolutely. Yes, he was. Yeah. So Alex asking Emilio about egg creams. No transfer portal. Don't know, Will, if today will be the day a player is signed. But as we always talk about when it comes to Atlanta United, and I know there's nothing wrong with wanting an announcement or being impatient, but just remember that with Atlanta United, it's done in quiet, and we find out about it. It's like, oh, by the way, traditionally 10 or 11 o'clock, bang, you get your announcement, and here you go. So with everything going outbound, I know that there is an anxiousness when it comes to wanting to see Atlanta United with their moves. So just, once again, I would preface everything that is desired by saying that Atlanta United's front office works in quiet. They work behind closed doors, behind the scenes, whatever phraseology you want. And like I said, it is not a linear thing where you lose a player, then they start thinking about another player. It is okay. This is all the outbound. How are we going to fix things simultaneously? So it is stuff thought about inbound, worked on inbound, as well as everybody else going outbound. And so that's kind of what we're staring at right now. And obviously, when we have announcements and things like that, obviously we will we'll hit the trumpets and all these kinds of things, and we'll roll from there. So perhaps if when you're sending things about this morning, perhaps maybe you could send links, because Jarrett and Nick are trying to get into the show, and strangely enough, you send an email, it shows you how awake I am, and yeah. So that's the kind of morning it's been so far. Yeah, just sent the link now. Unbelievable. Yeah, welcome to Friday and welcome to Hemingway Estates. So here you go. Yeah. That's the kind of morning it's been. So that's where we are. Yeah. All right. That's solid. That's good work on my end. All right, so that shows you how things are here at Hemingway Estates as we get ready for Beyond Goals at 9:30. Hopefully, if they remember, if I finally remember to send the links to all the emails and all the shows, so that's where we are. Good work by me. Okay, so Doug had a conversation with Garth. No, Junie, this is live. This is absolutely live. And thanks to everybody who has been discussing things and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, and Tom, you're absolutely right about when it comes to conversations and things like that. So, yeah, so that's the kind of morning it's been. As I've shown you my notes, I can cross off a couple of things here. So good for me that I didn't send the link out to everybody else to be. It's like I send out every morning. What I do is, we set up a link and we sit there and, the pen finally died after a good 6 months. So that's it for the pen too. So hi, Nick, now that I finally sent out the link, eh?
There you go.
Gosh. Yeah, that's it's like, yeah, I always send out the email every morning of, okay, so here's what's going on, here's what we're thinking of talking about, here's opening kickoff, and usually there's a show link so folks can wander in. And so apparently this morning, in trying to send out everything, I forgot the one thing, the link to the show for everybody else to hop in. So yeah, so that's the kind of morning it's been. Opening kickoff, Nick, was letting folks know that I think Mountain Dew has gone too far with their hot sauce and with their pineapple flavor that has been released to the masses. And we were alerted that apparently they did a fruitcake flavored Mountain Dew during the holidays.
The pineapple flavoring does not shock me because of the citrus flavor.
Yeah, but aren't you kind of but aren't you kind of messing with citrus and going citrus?
What's lemon lime?
But that's things that. All right, so here we go. All right, so Parky's hopping in. So here we go. All right, so Cap, Nick, it's Nick and me this morning, and I had my normal brain fart on a Friday, where I'm thinking, it's like everything is laid out and you send out everything. And then, of course, the one thing I forget was for everybody else, for like Nick and Jarrett to hop in, was the link to the show. You got the link to the show in time because you come on at 9:30. But me being here at Hemingway Estates for the week, completely and totally zoned out. And now we got into discussions about when was the last time you had a soda? When was the last time?
That is one of the things that I did not drink or did not have when I was playing professionally. Okay. I just did not have soda. I specifically remember a high school trainer or physio telling me that essentially beer was healthier than soda. Me as like a 16-year-old to hear that, I was like, oh my gosh, like crazy. So yeah, I did not drink soda for like 2 decades probably. But now I do enjoy a Coke every now and then. Sometimes it has other stuff in it. But just a straight Coke. I had one over the holidays.
I was going to say, is it, you add Fernet or something else into it, or something of that vein, or are you mixing vanilla? Are you cherry? What are we talking about here?
No, more of the
other
alcohol
items.
variety.
Other items, yeah. Some other things in there,
yeah. Yeah. So Nick, go for it. Well, this is where we gone off the rails already.
I used to drink soda with regularity until I saw a video of someone cleaning a car bumper with Diet Coke, and like getting some of the rust and stuff off of it, and then I was like, okay, yeah, I think I might be done with this for a while. So
yeah. So, but yeah, we were talking about, since I am not a coffee drinker, and I am actually, tell you what, for those watching on Twitch, you will actually see. Here you go, right there. There it is.
Wow.
Yeah, this is. But as I've gotten older, and the doctor has sat there and said, "Dude, you kind of need to peel it back." I do. I don't admit it publicly, but I do peel it back. But Mountain Dew has like about 9 different flavors these days, and it's like about 8 too many. And so I got into the discussion this morning with everybody kicking off. It's like, do you have a favorite something where the brand has gone completely off the rails and they've done too many things instead of just sticking with the original? And so we got into this discussion. See, that's what Friday is, Cap. We just kind of go off the rails with these things.
Yeah, it's good to get off the rails sometimes.
Especially with what happened this week. And when I sent out the email this morning, obviously I wanted to talk about 2 things that impacted Atlanta United fans in different ways. First one, obviously, the shocking news yesterday, and that we spent the entire show talking about Anton being taken away from us far too soon at the age of 25. When I mention Anton Walkes, what comes to mind for you?
Just a great teammate. Just a great human being, a great individual. Yeah, I think that's what you've seen over social media the past 24 hours, the outpouring of people just shocked because he's just one of the great guys. He was just a super liked person in the locker room by everybody. And that's rare. It's a rare breed. He was just infectious with his personality. And just his willingness to do whatever the team needed for him to do, right? He played some D mid, he played right back, he played center back. He was a role player, he was a starter, he ended up wearing the captain's armband, so I think everybody was happy for him when he was having success and playing well, because he put in a lot of work and just the kind of guy he was in the locker room.
Nick Alifi for Michael Parkhurst, go for it.
It's like we discussed yesterday. I mean, when you're in your 20s, you think you're going to live forever. When you're in your 30s, you start to see maybe a little bit of old age, and then, what that could look like. And when you get in your 40s and so on, you expect to walk into the twilight of life, right? And to have someone who was so universally loved like he was, like that Anton was, that 2 fan bases, natural rivals based upon geography, arm in arm now, sharing love and memories, and wishing that somehow this could be different, and for teammates to be universally talking about it's the same thing over and over and over. This guy was beloved in locker rooms. This guy was beloved by fans. number one, my condolences to you, Mr. Parkhurst, because it can be to lose any teammate, anyone that you share that kind of that kind of life with. It's got to be extraordinarily hard. So naturally, my condolences for you and everybody else who's suffering out there.
Yeah, thanks. It was a tough day yesterday for sure. When I got the news in the morning, it was like, man, this can't be real. Right? It's got to be a joke or a mistake or something. You're crazy because you just think of like preseason. I just put myself in his shoes or anybody's shoes. It's like preseason, you have an off day. You just want to get away from the game physically and mentally, right? So you go do things in cities that you don't normally spend time in. You get away and you're with buddies, and it could have been anybody. It could have been any of us at any point. And so that's the scary thing. You just think, man, yeah, it's just so fast and how it turns. Sad day.
And when it comes to reminders, it is one of those reminders about one of our listeners yesterday. It's like, don't sweat the small stuff, because at the end of the day, it is all small stuff. And just reminding us that we need to be in touch with a lot of different folks. It's a reminder that we need to be there for folks every single day. We need to be there for the folks that we're not in touch with every single day. And sadly, it's reminders like that get us back on track when it comes to being there for others, when it comes to the day-to-day.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. For all of us, and I hope athletes as well, learn. And I think it was the quarterback for Seattle, Geno Smith. He's kind of been around the block and been mostly a backup throughout his life. And I think he said something along the lines of like, my worst days or my bad days are like a dream for a lot of other people out there, right? To be a backup quarterback in the NFL is a dream. And so he's, he had a really good saying about like, he's got a great life, so don't feel bad for me or any type of thing like that. Because, I think as soccer players, we complain a lot about anything and everything. And so hopefully, it puts it in perspective of like how privileged and lucky we are to be able to play the game of soccer and go out there and have fun and enjoy it. So you never know when it could end.
Nick, go for it.
No, I don't think it could be put any better than that, to be honest. I mean, it's, for those of us, out there who, are trying to make sense of this, especially at putting in the context of the last 3 years, right? I mean, the last 3 years have just been clinically insane for everyone. But to watch anyone struck down in the prime is and the loss of what might have been and what could have been is just disastrous. And so, especially for his family, it's unbelievable prayers and that's I don't know anything else that can be said other than that, is that we all acknowledge this is a tragedy. We all acknowledge that there's a family that's missing a dad and someone who was loved beyond measure. So now it's how do we move forward? How do we continue carrying his name along and making sure that name is remembered and uplifted and for Charlotte, that this is a rallying cry for their team and that they can unify and make sure that they play this season and to carry on that legacy, and for all of us Atlanta United people that we need to do something very similar. We have to hoist his name up and remember the times that he was here and all the joy and the energy that he brought and keep that love and energy going.
Totally.
Now, Cap, when it comes to the other news of the week, Josef has a new home, and the way that things are structured in Major League Soccer, it was basically a transfer as you're all entities inside the league, and it was a reassignment was the term that was used. And so now Josef gets his fresh start at Inter Miami. and it will, the discussions were there in the press conference earlier in the week. And, Atlanta United tries to do their players as best as solid as they can. Josef had family there. The Venezuelan community is large there. And now Josef gets his fresh start back to wearing number 17 down there in Fort Lauderdale now.
Yeah. MLS reassignment. I've never heard that before. So that's a typical MSL transaction. But I'm happy for Josef. I think that up until the very last moments, his heart was still, I want to be in Atlanta. Maybe I could still be in Atlanta, even though I think his mind knew that it wasn't happening. And if he wasn't going to be in Atlanta, Miami's where he wanted to be. And so I'm happy for him that he's where he wants to be. His daughter and his significant other live down there. So that's a perfect spot for him. So I'm excited for him. I hope that he plays with some fire in him this year and gets back to scoring lots of goals and having success. So I'm excited for him as a friend that he landed in a good spot. But it's, big challenges for Atlanta United now. It's good that it's beyond them now. It's still a month before the season starts. And so that potential distraction for the next couple of weeks is now gone. So that's good. But obviously big questions on the roster, and hopefully that they've got already plans in place to make signings because, those are big shoes to fill. You're not going to fill them with one person. And, that's just like replacing Miguel. It's just, you can bring in Pizzi Martinez and spend a ton of money, and you can bring in Barco, and you can bring in, Almada. But, there's only one Miguel Almiron, and there's only one Josef Martinez, right? There's no one has done to the league what he did in like the span of 3 or 4 years.
No doubt.
Or even the span of 6 years, including the injury. His numbers are just remarkable. So, if they can get close to replicating that with somebody, then it's a home run. So, but it's big pressure on them, right? This is a huge, huge moment in Atlanta United because replacing a legend like him is difficult.
Nick, for Michael Parkhurst.
From a replacement perspective, I'm with you. I have no idea how, not just from an on-field perspective, but the face of the franchise, right? The face of somebody who organically became someone who was out there, murals and commercials, everything else. He was front and center with that. I have no idea how you replace it, but I do have to agree with you on one thing, Mike, that it's the whole corporate terminology of reassignment within the league is just, can we please just have someone go to the front office headquarters and just say, can we just at least get away from the corporate terminology and just get to like this one unified thing? It was a transfer, interleague transfer. It doesn't matter. Can we just update this just a little bit, please?
Yeah, it's just weird of like, was it a buyout or was it like,
exactly.
Atlanta pay out 80% and Miami paid out 20, and then, something happened. I doubt Atlanta United paid 100%. Right. Otherwise they would have just said it was a buyout. Yeah. It wasn't a buyout. It was, both teams must have paid something, and that's why he's not going to be a DP. Mm-hmm. Either way, I think that this will be a good insight into what Garth Lagerway's kind of ideas about a roster and a team are, right? Do they go out and buy and spend $10-15 million on a player to bring them in to replace Josef? Do they go out and get a young player? Do they go out and get an MLS guy? So I think it's a really obviously a huge signing, but a really good insight into how Garth thinks that this team should be set up for success.
And I think that it might be choice D, all of the above. I think that you might be taking some things from a bunch of different columns here, because you're looking at, you lose Dom Dwyer, You lose Alan Franco, Josef gone, Mo gone. So there are holes here, and obviously you've got with losing Josef, you're looking and Dom, you're looking at two positions at your striker position that you've got to sit there and it's like, okay, you've really got to focus on hitting a home run with those guys. And then it's center back as well. And there was the discussion about guys like Alexander Cayens and things like that. I mean, this is going to set the early tone for what we're looking at from a Garth Lagerwey administration. Garth now being more of the business side than he was in Seattle, where he was more the soccer side. But Garth sets the tone now with these early transactions. And I think that for anyone that you interact with, whether it's, adults or mentees, they get these doses of the real world and how things change and how you have to adapt. And I think that it's a message that can be applied in a bunch of different ways, looking at the situation for Atlanta United, whether you play the sport, whether you're a fan of the sport, whether you're learning about it. It's a bunch of different lessons that can be learned here.
Yeah, totally. It's the lessons are never ending and they're always around us. And, it's just the way you view things and how you move on. But when I look at the roster, you're right. Center back is so thin. It's very surprising now that you move on from Campbell. If you thought you were going to get rid of Franco,
but there's the trust in Noah Cobb, though, I would think at that point.
That's true. Yeah. That's a huge amount of trust in Noah Cobb. To think that he might, be, I wouldn't think that they'd have him as the number 3 center back for the season.
Yeah.
But to even have him as the 4 is a big step for him. So that would be fantastic, honestly. There's opportunities for guys now. There are. And so that's always the nice thing. And, I know for the fan base, it's difficult because you come attached to players, but just the modern day, it's so rare to have a player be in one place for so long. Unfortunately, just things happen. And, I think that not always, but a lot of times players are viewed stagnant at their own club. They just view like, oh, they're, we can replace that person, and where other clubs are like, oh, we'd love to have him. And so for whatever reason that occurs, but it provides new opportunities for other guys. And, it's crazy to think now there's only one original left on the roster. Down to one and a half. Brad's a half.
Yeah. Polar Bear was around, but he didn't start from the beginning. That was Alec Can. Nick, go for it.
So a question I have then, when we're talking about center back depth, Fabio Cannavaro is one of my all-time favorite players. Somebody who, him and Maldini and Nesta, those guys, if you are general manager Parkhurst right now, and you are saying, I need X out of a center back, what am I looking for? What is the list you present when you go to your people and say, look, I need X, Y, and Z from the center back position? What are you looking for?
Am I working from a blank slate, or are you saying like, who would I suggest like attributes for like the number 3 center back that Atlanta United?
So you're working from a blank slate.
Yeah.
Okay. You're working from a blank slate. You're coming in attribute wise. What are you looking for?
Yeah. So here's the things. 1, it depends on how you want to play. And 2, it depends on who he's going to be surrounded by, right? Because, if you're going to play him next to a young player, you need someone with leadership qualities. If you're playing this person next to somebody like, Walker Zimmerman or even Miles, or, somebody that already has leadership, or even Parata, right? You can get a younger player and that doesn't have to have the leadership qualities. So it's important to know who you're lining him up with. But in a perfect world, if you need to win right now and you want the best center back possible, that's leadership is 1. Ability to read the game is 2. The game is so fast and physical that there's very few Miles Robinsons out there that can just physically dominate any type of opponent, fast, small, big, strong, whatever, it doesn't matter. So somebody that can read the game, and comfortable playing out of the back. That's the modern game. You have to have that. And that's something that can be taught more. And, even Miles, has taken great strides in that over the course of his career. Some of this stuff is teachable, but, it really depends on the style, because in a perfect world, if you have somebody athletic like Miles, it changes the way that you play. It does. You can play one-on-one. You can have a high line. You can put so much trust in him. But if you have an older center back like myself or something, that can't cover so much ground, has so much space, then it changes the way you play a little bit, and the way that you have to think about defending as a team, or how high up the field you can be, how much risk you can take. So it really depends on how you want to play a little bit. But leadership, playing out of the back, reading the game, comfortable on the ball would be my top things that I'd be looking at.
When you're hanging out with your mentees these days, you mentioned leadership, and I wanted to ask about that. With your mentees, is leadership these days something that is innate in the upcoming generation of players that you're interacting with, or is it a learned trait when it comes to being a leader and everything that's attached to all of those things? Are you finding more learned as they go, or do you still have those that have that aura about them the second they step out there on the pitch?
I think there's definitely some that have that aura. I've come across a few players who just seem to be leaders even when they're 20 or younger. Somebody like Will Trapp comes to mind. Like, I went into the Columbus Crew locker room and I was already 30, I think, or close to it. And he was like 22 or 23. And you could just tell this guy was a leader. Just the way he carried himself and the way he did things, just no fear and good communication. And, so he was a natural. I was not a natural. It was, for me, took many years to get there. And to learn things over the course of my career. So, I definitely teach that leadership is something that you can learn and you can improve. And it's a skill that you can continuously work on and get things from people that you're around, right? You're around other types of leaders, teachers and parents and coaches, and also teammates that you can learn good things and bad things from, of like what to do, what not to do, and form your own leadership style, because there's so many different styles and ways to lead people.
Nick, go ahead.
I like Joe Boss' question. Joe Boss is curious as to your thoughts on how Miles 1v1 stacks up to others you have played with or against.
I think a healthy, confident Miles is the best one-on-one player I've ever played with or against.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who else would be in that top five?
On the defensive side, it's a good question. Trying to think of guys in MLS that I played with that were really good one-on-one defensively. It's such a tough skill and such a unique skill. Harrison Afful from Charlotte, but this was like 7-8 years ago when he was a lot younger. Was very good. Kamar Lawrence, when I think of like lockdown outside back defenders, he's so fast, physically strong. I think of him as a really good one-on-one defender. I don't know, that's curious. Curious thing to think about. But I say a confident Miles because I saw some moments before the injury where I thought that I saw an unconfident Miles for the first time in my time watching Miles, of like, taking, I don't know, poor mistakes and poor defending plays where it was like you would do that if you weren't confident of your athletic skills. Like that, it was like a play that I would do late in my career, kind of like, well, I might not win the ball, but I'm going to foul this guy. Where, you know, Miles doesn't need to do that because he's so fast and so strong. A confident Miles, though, which hopefully we see this year, is definitely the best.
Yeah, and since you mentioned Kamar Lawrence, there are folks in the timeline who are saying Kamar Lawrence, those are two bad words when it comes to Atlanta United fans for what he did to Tito Villalba.
I know, for sure. You know, and I think that we were fortunate that he missed those games in our run, right? He didn't play in either of those games, I don't think, or definitely not the one in the Benz. But he's so good. He's tough,
no doubt. Nick, go ahead.
From the mental aspect of the game, I remember a certain tackle in the championship game that you were a part of, where you came sliding in. And
I vaguely remember this one, yeah.
Yeah, vaguely I remember this one. I believe you slid into the right to dispossess. And I seem to recall hearing somewhere that you said you scouted that there was tape on that, on how he likes to move in certain situations. When you talk to your mentees and you talk about the preparation, obviously kids aren't going to have access to, you know, significant amounts of video replay and breakdowns and things like that. But how can you coach these kids to also focus on the mental preparation of the game, the you know, not even during tournaments, because, you know, as a soccer dad and someone who played, and I know, you know, you came up obviously, you know, in these crazy tournaments where you're playing 2-3 games a day, where you're watching other teams. Hey, you're probably playing these guys later. How do you coach these kids to keep their head on a swivel and keep their mind open in the preparation side?
Yeah, I think a lot of the mental preparation is beforehand, with confidence and just having a good outlook and being prepared, and feeling prepared for the game. You know, I try and tell defenders that I work with that to use the first part of the game to figure out the strengths of the opponent if you've never played against him, like as quickly as possible. You know, how fast they are, how strong they are, what their movements are like, so that it can help you the rest of the game, right? To figure that stuff out as quickly as possible. But the other thing we talk about is when you watch games, and that could be, you know, if you're watching another team your age play, or you're watching a Champions League game or a national team game or an Atlanta United game. I don't always watch the ball. Right? Watch what the people in your position are doing on and off the ball to learn, right? And there's so many different things that guys are doing off the ball to help them, so that when all of a sudden they're in the picture, it's like, oh, that was easy for them. Well, it was only easy for them because they saw it happening 5 seconds ago, and they moved here and they moved there and they did this and they did that. These are things you can't see unless you're watching them off the ball. Sometimes that's hard on TV, because you can only see so many guys. But if you're ever at a game, it's a little bit easier. But that's definitely one thing that I learned as a younger player, and that I try and tell kids these days to do.
Last question for you, and thanks for hanging out and especially discussing difficult things that have happened this past week. A couple days ago, it was International Mentoring Day. And I didn't know that, but in looking at timelines and things, you get to learn things in social media. When it comes to you as a mentor, how have you grown, developed, whatever word you want to use, when it comes to your mentoring and your mentoring skills, especially with your time that you and Greg are spending there at Beyond Goals? How do you think that your mentoring has evolved since you've started BGM?
Yeah, I think that just the ability to communicate with younger kids and try and to identify with them, and their personality, has been the toughest thing and the biggest thing to learn, because you can't have the same conversation with every kid, right? There's some kids that don't turn on the video, and there's some kids that don't ask any questions and that are just much more shy than others. And then there's other kids that want to talk the whole time themselves, and, and finding what works, what tone, what message, and how to relate to each kid. That's been the part that I've probably learned the most about, because, there's one thing to have the message, right? But if you're not able to relate it to the person that you're trying to talk to, or the group that you're trying to talk to, it doesn't matter. They're not going to take it in. And so being able to take that message and spin it in a way that they're going to understand and they're going to want to take in and make sense to them has been fun to learn and to adjust to.
Very, very cool. At MF Parkhurst on Twitter, at BG Mentoring as well. Cap, thanks for hanging out with us as always here on the Friday Free Kick. We'll catch up with you in a couple of weeks, and as we're getting closer to camps and getting closer to games that are meaning stuff, we can get into that stuff as well. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, guys. Abster, I'm glad that scarf came in. Thanks for the support.
Yes, Abby. Yeah, well, see, and that's the point. It's like, it's all the way in the back. When we get back to Office HD, you get to see the scarf hanging from the back. I got to remember to wear the T-shirt on one of these Fridays when I know that you're doing it, or at least have it close.
Hold up. There's T-shirts and scarves. I've been left out of the loop on these. The T-shirt. I would have my video going if I had T-shirt and scarves to promote the squad, man.
All right, I'll have to get you hooked up.
Well, see, but the thing is, Nick, this has been the big issue with Cap and our friends at Rhode Island FC. They run out of gear, man. I mean, am I not wrong, Cap, in that you guys are having problems keeping the shelves full?
Yeah, it's a good problem to have for sure, but it's a problem that we're trying to ramp up. I mean, obviously, production and shipping and all that stuff is still a disaster these days. So, it's not like we can order it and we're filled up the next week. So it's a good problem to have for sure, but it's a problem that we're trying to get on top of.
And as things continue to grow and evolve with Rhode Island FC, obviously we'll talk about that stuff as well. And we are planning for the remote when the stadium happens, and
there we go.
Everything is lined up. So, Cap, enjoy your weekend. We'll catch up soon.
You too. See you guys.
All right, Michael Parkhurst and the Friday Free Kick. Nick, that's as Michael says, it's a good problem to have.
It's a great problem to have.
And Ricky is like, the T-shirt is fantastic. Ricky likes the crest, as you should in situations like this. But no, it is absolutely they hit a home run when it came to the look and the marketing and everything. And so it is without question that when things happen for Rhode Island FC, there will be remotes. There will be things happening out of Rhode Island FC.
Yeah, I love Rhode Island, man.
Yeah,
if for anyone who's never been into the New England area, and ventured into the wonderful land of Rhode Island, I strongly suggest you do so, because it is beautiful.
Okay, time to take care of a little business, and Nick, feel free to heckle or do whatever you wish when it comes to this particular read. I don't have the billboard behind me because I'm here at Hemingway Estates. I am not at Office HD, so I'm going to kind of have to do this blind and without any kind of a script whatsoever. So here we go. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's a Lemonize service. We like our friends at Lemonize. Different than any other agent when it comes to fixing all of the odors that you may have in your house. They work with realtors and property managers to make sure that the facilities can be fixed and changed and made up 100% as quickly as humanly possible. It's a turnkey process with them. It makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Different than our masking agents that we have either underneath us in the sink or above us in the cupboard. Because when we reach underneath the sink or above us in the cupboard, and we pull out that masking agent, spray the masking agent in the air, there's a reason, Nick, that they call it a masking agent.
Yeah.
Because you're just masking the odor. You're not
this
attacking.
is in a superhero movie.
No.
Is this in the Super Bowl? We don't need masks.
Yeah, and so literally, when you have these masking agents, that's all they're doing. They're not attacking the issue all the way down to the molecule, like our friends at Eliminize do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing one of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that is affordable for you. And here's where the homework assignment happens. And this is where I pick up my pen that actually physically works. Go to the website, eliminize.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world you are addressing them from, so they can help you attack your problems. So your full homework.
That is eliminize.com/what?
Atlanta. So it is ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH, and the billboard will return over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch on Monday when I return to Office HD.
So what my friend John is saying is, if you want to get those stanky odors out, because after the holidays, it probably still smells like turkey in the house. It probably still smells like, Aunt Edna when she came in, and her suitcase smelled like mothball.
You got an ant problem.
Yep, those nasty nieces and nephews that drag stuff all over the place. Look, there's only one group that can help you. You don't want masking agents. You don't want somebody to come in your whole house to smell like peach Bellini. It's not peach Bellini season.
Here's a spray. Use the spray.
No, we're not
there.
spraying. We're not spraying.
No,
this isn't
absolutely.
Elizabeth Taylor's White Diamonds, buddy. We're getting real clean happening here. Lemonize.
Yes. Eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Once again, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
I'm not going to heckle you, John. I'm not going to heckle you. That was a no script promo.
Yes.
For a valuable partner of the SDH network.
Yep. Required reading today comes from the Charlotte Observer and Alex Zeitlow's article on Anton Walkes, titled "From Charlotte to Senegal, Everyone Felt Like They Knew Anton Walkes." And it goes through the eyes and sounds of Mokambe, who had a food truck, who was just down the street from B of A. Holof on Wheels, West African cuisine. And Anton was a weekly customer there. He would always order lamb holof. It was his daughter's order too. And Kambe and Walkes, they knew each other from what Mokambe was building in Charlotte. And so that's your required reading for the day. Charlotte Observer, Alex Zeitlow's article with Anton Walkes. A lot of gossip, rumor, innuendo, and previewing of the weekend, Nick. Yesterday in the Prem, it was bananas Foster craziness. It was 2 mistakes early by Manchester City. And then all of a sudden, Manchester City woke up. 4-2 final for Manchester City. And Antonio Conte is, it seems more and more like Antonio Conte is missing his home country, and he's really kind of looking over his shoulder, and it might be a very, very short tenure for Antonio Conte.
Well, how long has he been there?
We're working on a season and a half, I think. That close.
Well, he's typically 3 years and out. That's typically his MO, is 3 years and out before he burns all the. Have a great day, Abby. But yeah, he's typically 3 years and out before, especially goes full Chernobyl. So the fact that it's Spurs, this is happening now, is not terribly shocking, because that's so Spursy. That's there for a reason. Spursy started trending yesterday, for a reason. So this is who they are. This is what Spurs are all about. And it doesn't matter who the manager is. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Because it still happens. So yeah.
And he has also mentioned publicly losing Gianpiero Ventrone, Tottenham's fitness coach, who died in October, before Conte's friend and former Lazio defender Sinisa Mihailovic died in December, and then losing Gianluca Vialli earlier this month.
Yes.
And so, article from our friends at Sky, proud of his hard work and commitment to football management, but admits losing 3 close friends has left him questioning his long-term future.
Yeah. The Vialli loss I have never seen a loss ripple through Serie A like Gianluca Vialli's. You know, all around good guy, all around just beloved, regardless of team. You know, a lot of times situations like this can be ran through the filter of team loyalties. This is not the case with Gianluca Vialli. He was just beloved across all of Italy. And so it's not, you know, it's not shocking that Antonio Conte would look at it this way and look at it from the standpoint of, okay, well, what's my long-term future? Really, what's the end game in all of this?
Contract runs out at the end of the current season, by the way.
Right. I wouldn't be shocked to see Antonio Conte walk away for a while. I would not be shocked because what else is there for him to do? There's no, you know, Real Madrid is not going to come calling anytime soon. PSG is, you know, I don't know if that's a job he necessarily wants. And with all the loss he's experienced lately, I just don't know. I just don't know how he would just pick up and go, okay, next job, let's go. You know, Juve is not going to come knocking on the door again. Milan is perfectly okay. Inter's okay. Roma may be the only spot I think that could have an opening before too terribly long. But still, like, what's it all for? So he needs to find those answers, and he's not going to find it at White Hart Lane, I can tell you that.
Quote, he says, when you work and the work is at the top of your mind in your head, and maybe times we forget to stay with the family, we forget to spend time with friends, but this is our passion. And for the passion, we lost a lot of things. When this situation happens, I think you start to think that maybe sometimes it's also good to give more time to your family and friends and also to yourself. The work is not everything in life. You can tell me I could be not a good coach, but about the commitment and what I give the club where I work, no club was unhappy about this. Usually, when I left the club, they regret me leaving a lot because they knew the way that I work and the commitment I put into the club, what I give for the club. Yes, I think this, but in this aspect, I'm really happy for the way that I am. You only get tired if you work. I work a lot, and for this reason, it is normal to be tired. Many people don't look tired. That's because they don't work. I work a lot for this club. Believe me, I give everything for the club, not only for Tottenham, but for Inter, for Juve, for every club where I was the coach. It is normal that when I finish the day, I am tired because I work a lot for the club, and for this reason, the club want me to stay for a long period, end quote.
That doesn't sound like a man who is going to be doing this much longer. I have a dear friend of mine who was, I mean, the guy was like the epitome of grind culture, where it was, you know, up in the morning, grind, late in the night, grind, and suffered get loss in his life. And he, you know, he told me, he's like, I grind for what now? Like, it's, you know, what kind of life am I going to have? Because if I do all this work and one day it's just snatched from me, what was it all for? You know, what the time wasted and the time not spent doing, you know, with doing stuff with the people I love. And so different people have that realization at different times in their lives. And it sounds like Antonio Conte has found that for himself. I would not be shocked if he leaves Spurs of his own accord and goes and spends maybe half a year in Italy before he decides he's going to maybe take the Lecce job.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a team that's near and dear to his heart. But you know, when I was at Turner Sports, I had the George Costanza desk, right? Like, for those who were of a certain age, you remember George Costanza had like a little mini apartment under his desk.
Yep.
During March Madness and College World Series, I had I took all the paperwork out of the drawers, replaced it all with groceries. I had my own Keurig coffee maker at the desk. I had, beach towels essentially rolled up and stuffed under the desk where if I needed to close the door and make people think I was editing and taking a nap, then I would have that there. And I think I saw my son once during March Madness and maybe 3 times during College World Series. And that was the dream job, right? That was the job where I was like, oh my God, there's nothing else I want to do. And then when Turner laid me off, I kind of had that moment of clarity after, feeling like, no, I did not have a portable toilet. Good God, no. I wasn't that much of a madman. But I just remember thinking like, good Lord, how much time passed and what did I miss, by just being this guy who lived at the studio, like just lived at the studio. And that you have to, these moments, they come, and when it happens, just embrace that moment of clarity.
Yeah, Coco says, quote, I'm tired because I work, end quote. I've got a coworker that just said something very similar. He announced he was retiring at the end of the school year. Sometimes your eyes move from the daily grind to the horizon. Absolutely true. Mm-hmm. One other thing, 2 other things. Looks like Spurs might be chasing Zaniolo on a loan here in the January window. And Conte has also questioned why only managers have to face the media in English football and not other figures such as sporting directors, as questions about Spurs continue to be asked. They lost to Arsenal and they were 14 points behind them. So your inverse St. Totteringham's Day might be coming a lot closer than in years past. Game in hand over Spurs. So he confessed to being irritated about having to answer the same questions over and over again. And I think, frankly, that's the part of the press corps. That's the press corps' fault, answering the same question. Believes more clarity can be available if there's a wider range of people from the club facing the media. Quote, in England, I think there's a bad habit that there's only the coach to speak. I've never seen the medical department come here and explain that this player is having difficulty to recover. I never see the club or sporting director to come here and explain the strategy and vision of the club. In Italy, every game before the game, there's a person from the club who goes with the media and then has to answer many questions. For us, it could really be better because otherwise we put every time our face, and he points to his own face, there's only one face to show. Means if only the coach speaks, sometimes there can be misunderstandings. It could be good to have the club presenting to the media to speak. Maybe not every week, but every 15 days, once a month in this way. So as we welcome in Jarrett Smith here to hour number 2, because I finally sent the link to Jarrett, that's where we are this morning. So Conte's hitting folks with both barrels, and it really does sound like a guy who is tired of his place.
But go ahead, Jarrett. Go ahead, Jarrett. You just jumped in here. Go ahead.
No. I'm jumping in halfway here, so tell me what's going on.
All right. So essentially, Antonio Conte is recognizing that the English media is a nest of vipers, and that the way the English clubs are set up is that the manager owns all of it. The manager owns all of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like that, they are the focal point. They are the spokesman. They are the singular point of interaction outside of the post-game, player interviews. But in Italy, you will have like board members who are answering questions just as much as managers, as anyone else, because it is. In Italy, there's a culture of, some say pass the buck, some say shared responsibility, right? It depends on how you view the world. But, the people from the board will talk to the media, and they are expected to know why the team played this certain way. Why was this guy not in? Why was, you're 4 points behind Inter. How are you planning to catch up? What's your transfer strategy? The manager alone is not shouldering all of these questions. And Gazzetta is going to ask a different question from Seven Gold and from Rai and whoever. It's you don't have the same press officials asking the same question over and over and over and over and over again because they're on gerbil wheel media. So Conte needs to get out of England, man. He really does. This is not a good situation for him. The pressure of the world, at the moment with all the significant loss he has faced personally, does not need to be, that doesn't need to be part of his deal. He needs to find a different situation. And Michael Head, I completely agree. He says, I don't have any sympathy for coaches being the club spokespersons. They knew this going in. They get mega bucks, and that's part of the job. That's a part of the job in England, not necessarily elsewhere in Europe. But that is something that if you want to continue doing your job, because no one's making you show up, you choose to keep showing up. You can hand in the resignation letter anytime you want. But if Conte wants to keep doing that, then he can keep doing it. Otherwise, hand in your resignation letter and walk away. It's not that terribly difficult.
So that's where we are, Jarrett.
Okay. I mean, what?
No, just that's where we are this morning. Antonio Conte seems to be having.
He's having a day.
Yeah, he's having a day, and
he's having multiple days.
Yeah, it's turned into a season, and he mentioned having lost 3 friends since November. He seems like a guy who will not renew his contract when the season's over at Spurs.
I mean, and I feel like it's especially the way Spurs fans have dealt with the last, yesterday. It seems like that's probably not a bad route to go anyway, just because of the way things have been going at Tottenham.
Yeah.
And you don't ever wish stuff like this on anybody, but it almost feels like the situation is like, man, you got between all of your stuff and the work of the team, just walk away.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're headed. So, Jared, I mentioned before, as a part of the Mountain Dew having gone too far discussion this morning, and before Michael Parkhurst came in to join us at 9:30, Christian Ramirez is now official, leaving Aberdeen, posted the message on social media. He's going to Columbus to be there with Wilfred Nancy. And have you heard anything late about Giakoumakis and any
Nope.
kind of future there? So we're still locked into the 4 contenders without any kind of advancement in the storyline. It is staying. It is Urawa Red Diamonds. It is Atlanta United. It is Cadiz, but there is no advancement in Giakoumakis' story.
Yeah. So if you want to get into like the fun parts of this, it's that if you want to start doing the whole let's start piecing this together as we go thing, Celtic is in on another South Korean striker, which a different one this time, which would give them to cover to lose a Giakoumakis in a transfer, whether that's to Red Diamonds, whether that's to Cadiz, whether that's to Atlanta, wherever it might be. Because again, there's like 4 teams at least involved in this bidding that we know of.
Right.
We'll see if it's going to be like $4 million, though. That kind of feels like the kind of thing where I want to see how they spread this out, because we're getting into the area there where Atlanta could potentially, if it was $4 million, you want to spread that contract out, potentially buy him down.
Yeah.
If not right away, you could buy him down the road. You bring him in probably as a designated player, and then down the road would buy him down if you needed to. But yeah, nothing's loud about that. He didn't play Wednesday. There's a lot of speculation he was on the way out the door. Ange Postecoglou, who hates the media as much as anyone I have ever seen as a manager of a professional soccer club, said he was banged up. Cameron Carter-Vickers was also banged up. Don't read into it.
Okay.
Again, the man hates the media with a beautiful passion.
Yep. yesterday, U.S. Soccer had the federation had their latest quarterly board of directors meeting. Here's your headline items. President Cindy Parlow-Cohn said the independent investigation commissioned over Raina Berhalter, quote, should be completed in the coming weeks. She didn't put an exact timeline on the completion, and this is Jonathan Tannenwald's wording, will frustrate fans. Cohn would like it done quickly, too, as she said on the day the investigation was announced, but she's been steadfast in not wanting to enforce a timeline on an independent investigation so the investigators don't miss anything, and so U.S. Soccer can't be accused of telling the investigators what to do. Ernie Stewart did not speak in the public session of the meeting, nor did U.S. men's team GM Brian McBride or women's team GM Kate Markgraf. Mark Graf was in New Zealand, so she was kind of busy. Also, the concussion, we talked about the concussions thing yesterday as well, 2 days ago. Cindy Cohn lamented a decision this week by IFAB to turn down testing temporary substitutions for players who suffer concussions. MLS, the Prem, Liga and Ligue 2 in France, and players' unions worldwide had pushed for the test, quoting Cohn, unfortunately rejected by IFAB. U.S. Soccer is supposed to focus on being a leader in concussion awareness and safety. We fully supported MLS in this as player safety is of the utmost importance. We're hoping that IFAB will continue to look at it. MLS came out with a statement, and they were kind of chapped. The league said they're going to continue to work with their coalition from around the world. Cohn mentioned recent meetings with FIFA and CONCACAF about, quote, various international competitions here in the U.S. over the next several years, end quote, did not mention the possibility of U.S. playing in and hosting the 2024 Copa America, but she said, quote, we'll be working together to drive as much impact as possible to the Men's World Cup in 26. New CEO, JT Batson, noted he heard a lot about refs while attending the Soccer Coaches Convention in Philadelphia. He knows that while everyone likes to complain about officiating, refs have no formal representation in U.S. soccer governance, so they can't speak for themselves to get more funding for referee training and development. Batson addressed that. Also, multiple members of the U.S. Soccer's new task force on player safety spoke about their work. The group was formed in the wake of the abuse scandals in women's soccer. The chair is Mana Shim, who blew the whistle on Paul Riley. So Mana Shim was available to address the group as well. A slide in the group's presentation said a major goal is for every adult in the soccer ecosystem, which means more than just coaches, to complete a safe soccer program that will grant a portable digital pass. The program is expected to be rolled out over the next 3 to 5 years with a tiered approach that recognizes operational and financial realities for state and local organizations. Task Force is interviewing candidates for a new chief safeguarding officer for U.S. Soccer. So the next major public update will come at the end of the month. So, Nick, that's your rundown from the board of directors.
Oh, exciting. Interesting.
Yes. Well, and the concussion thing is probably the largest element here that we can address. And once again, how IFAB is completely, as Ricky is saying, IFAB really dropping the ball, especially when it comes to concussions.
Well, the question I have is, like, IFAB over there drinking Drano recreationally? And
yes.
Are they like, yeah, it's my brother lives terribly far from where old Johnny's vacationing right now.
Yes, Hemingway Estates. He's across the bridge. Yes.
Yeah, he's across the bridge. Not in somewhere over in the general vicinity. There are folks who spray bug spray on electric fencing and then smoke the crystals off of it.
Oh, wow.
It sounds like that's what IFAB's doing.
The ingenuity of humanity is going to be our downfall, but also it's going to leave some outstanding notes for future species that enter our atmosphere.
Yeah, when the frog people finally emerge from their underground lairs and read the notes here, they're going to be like, you guys won't believe what these people were doing up here. But IFAB, on man, good God, yeah. I found the cherry flavor Drano. Yes, yeah, it's Drano Zero is what IFAB is currently getting loaded up on.
Yeah, the low-cal, no-cal Drano is what IFAB.
But it's the white cherry. It's the special kind.
Right.
Yeah, it's just once again you have this opportunity to be at the forefront of fixing things. And they're just going to continue to go with the temporary substitution and the study instead of actually putting their foot down and going, okay, here's what we need to do with the permanent sub. We're just going to continue the study and basically, Jarrett, kick the can down the road.
Yes.
But
Go for
here's the
it.
thing: nobody. This is what happens when the status quo is allowed to persist. Never underestimate the power of the status quo. That everyone's going to do just enough to keep the machine working. That's it. They're not going to. No one's going to say, "Hey, look, how do we radically remake this thing so that way everyone can benefit. Everyone can somehow be in a better position. How do we change this? Because change is big. It requires risk. It requires a bit of daring do. It requires a bit of putting yourself on the line. And to Coco's point, nobody has a gun to the head. Right? They don't have to choose this. This is. I mean, they are choosing. They're when someone says, "Yeah, we're going to continue looking into this. We're going to continue studying and looking at." No, they're making a choice not to stall the machine. They want just keep everything moving. We're all making money. The checks are clearing. Why upset the apple cart? I don't want hate mail on my Twitters. I don't want the Google machine to send me bad press. And this is what, and I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a moment.
Go for it.
This is part of the problem in the world today, is that the people who are trying to do right, who are trying to look out for long-term health, who are trying to look at the not only long-term health, but a way to improve the game, they are instead allowing a faulty, poor system to remain in place because they benefit. Like they either they benefit or they benefit from inaction. So what I mean by when someone benefits from inaction, it's that they understand that they have a very cushy position, and that they don't want to have.
You don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to rock.
It's not even that. It's more nefarious than that, John. Not rocking the boat means everybody, like 5 layers down, stays exactly where they are. Okay, you may not like it, but the checks are clearing. What this is I don't want someone to come in here with a revolutionary mind, with a revolutionary thought process, and take my spot. It's Hulk Hogan. That don't work for me, brother. And instead of allowing a better show to take place, that don't work for me, brother. And instead, everything is just kind of chugging along, nice and slow. And players are going to get hurt. They're going to play hurt because they don't want to hurt their team by costing a substitution, or having any sort of issue take place while they're being evaluated. And they are choosing inaction by this continued study. I refuse to be snowed into believing that there's some sort of, some kind of major think tank working on this. It's like at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where it's like it's being studied by top men. Well, what do you mean? Who? Top men. And then you see the Ark in its wooden case being pushed into this giant warehouse with like 5 million other giant wooden cases. That's exactly what's happening here. And IFAB's waiting for you, the fan, to ignore this and get back to worrying about who's better for Ronaldo, either Ronaldo or Messi, and forget this whole, concussion issue. They want you to forget it because that's what the status quo does. The status quo makes sure that you forget the things that are troubling and problematic, because at least the machine's moving. You're not stuck in the mud. It's at least moving. But it's on you, the fans, and us, the media, to work together to keep screaming at these clowns, to get their own little Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Concussion Circus on track, so that way for the players can benefit, and we as fans and teams can benefit as well.
and Nick, I don't see your logic approach, which is probably the first issue, that you approached it with logic. There's something, it's like, why would you not? Because the only reason is that that there's an internal benefit somewhere by not doing something. And so and I think that's where you were going in this, if I'm understanding it correctly. There's a benefit by doing something to somebody, then there's also a benefit to somebody for not doing something.
Yes, am I rambling and poorly worded?
No, it wasn't.
Dalliance down the.
It was not a poorly worded dalliance. I was just, it's like there's equal benefit. It benefits both sides of an argument, whether we choose to initially understand it or not. Both sides of a situation benefit from their own stance in the issue. And literally, you could sit there and it's like, okay, why have a stoplight? Well, there are folks that benefit from having stoplights, and then at the same time, there would be folks who would benefit by not having a stoplight or a stop sign.
Well, there's a difference between what's best for business and what's best for me.
Right.
What's best for business means I'm not always at the top. What's best for business means that one day John's at the top, one day means Jarrett's at the top, one day it means that Coco or Ricky Ricardo or Michael Head or Emilio or David's at the top. What's best for me is it's my show.
And I'm at the top.
Acknowledge me. Right? That's not changing. It's not changing until I walk away. That is what's best for me business. And at IFAB, and I'm sorry, you're guilty until proven innocent in this case because you have a long track record of doing this. It looks like IFAB is saying it's not what's best for business, it's what's best for us. And by, they have an air of legitimacy because they write the laws of the game. And the only way you maintain that position is by having enough people either remain silent or get really angry and walk away.
Yeah.
Right. And
that still benefits me if you walk away from the argument.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you walk away from the argument, I'm right. Whether reality bears that out or not, in my mind, if you walk away, I'm right. Yeah. They recognized I was right, so they walked away.
Yes.
And so that's the challenge I have, is that this is again, it's a what's best for me business, not a what's best for business. And that is the issue. And IFAB continuously ace plants here with inaction, and they continue to make a mockery of themselves with inaction. Or if they do dive headlong into something, it's something so trivial and so stupid and so asinine that it makes everybody throw their hands up and be like, well, why in God's name did you get involved in the first place? Well, you wanted us to. No, because we didn't.
It was a big giant duh.
Yeah, we wanted you to worry about this. Well, we're worrying about this. Okay, well, you completely screwed it up. So from now on, we're not going to ask you to fix anything because it's too much of a pain to do it. So I'm so sick of this mindset. Sometimes you need to take a step back because it's what's best for business. And I swear to God, wrestling has so many great lessons for the world.
Yes.
I swear it does. The whole Hulk Hogan thing of, hey, Hulk, we want to put the title on Macho Man because he's like, he's really over right now. He's great. He's great on the talk show circuit. He's great. His merch sales are through the roof. He has a really great message. And Hulk staring these people in the face and goes, oh, that don't work for me, brother. And then, what happens? Hulk retains, stagnant, boring, and Hulk keeps cashing his checks.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, so you got all that. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo for your Friday. Chelsea, who are spending like they're just do we know if Bowley Clear just have a printing press at Stamford Bridge?
Well, the challenge is the length of the contracts, right? The length of the contracts are north of 5 years, which is against the regulations. Is that not accurate?
I mean, it's just you sign folks to long-term deals, you keep their full value, and then if at any point when they continue to get better, then what you do is you sell them on, and then you're still this way. It's like the Braves signing all of those players to the long-term deals, and it might be undervalued, but what you're doing is if they continue to grow and improve and you want to trade them, then the team that's going to want the player is going to have to trade at a premium because you've signed them to this deal.
Oh, but it's more than that. It's financial fair play.
Oh, no question. They got that too.
Fair play is over a 3-year period, right? So every 3 years you have to prove you balance the books. Yeah. A 5-year contract allows you to stretch out the payments to just below it, which is why they have the rules, the year requirements in place for the contracts. And if Chelsea's not even skirting the issue, is if they are absolutely flat out refusing to comply.
Well, we believe in the player, and that's why they're a part of the long-term build of this organization, Nick. We firmly believe that this individual will continue to help grow and evolve the Chelsea brand over the length of this contract. We have that confidence in them. Yeah, really, Coco. Team skirting FFP, that never happens. Breaking news, by the way. Lando Trossard joins Arsenal for $27 million after a fallout with De Zerbi at Brighton. Chelsea have had a £55 million bid for Moises Caicedo. Remember 4 years ago when Jason was on the Moises Caicedo train ahead of a lot of other folks?
Yep.
Rejected by Brighton. Made an inquiry about Spurs midfielder Yves Bissouma, but have received no encouragement from Spurs regarding a deal that would send Hakim Ziyech as a make-weight the other direction. Newcastle have a 9-man transfer list, talking about printing money, which includes Everton's Anthony Gordon and 3 Chelsea players, Ziyech, Conor Gallagher, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Newcastle made a £13.5 million bid for 18-year-old Flamengo forward Mateus Franca. That is from the 4-letter paper, so take that information at your own peril. Wolves forward Gonzalo Guedes is in his native Portugal before completing a loan move to Benfica. Jude Bellingham set to hold a transfer meeting with Borussia Dortmund after indicating to Real Madrid he prefers to move to Spain rather than to the Premier League. Liverpool still optimistic about signing Bellingham and want to offer him the chance of becoming the new Steven Gerrard at Anfield.
Oh, God.
According to Florian Plettenberg at Sky Germany. We mentioned Spurs wanting to sign Nicola Zaniolo, who Roma would be prepared to sell or loan out with an obligation to buy. Milan Skriniar will not sign Inter's contract offer for the time being as he is out of contract this summer and considers his options, Nick.
Smart move. Give the player more flexibility. Allows him to, seek his own fortune. Good for him. Zaniolo is the issue with him is injuries. When he is fully healthy, there is no doubt how amazing of a player he can be and what a difference maker he is. But he does not have the ability to stay healthy. And yeah, hey, look, man, I thought Zaniolo had the world at his feet. But as the injuries have mounted, I think that's exactly the issue. Is that the question that Alex has asked, which is can Nico stay healthy? No, he can't. A couple things with that is, one, physios in Italy are a disaster zone. If you get injured in Italy, you do not go to the Italian physio. You don't do it. You don't bother, because your career will be just absolutely wrecked, and there are too many players to name to go through the list. But Zaniolo needs to change. He needs to get out of Roma, just to try to see if he can stay healthy somewhere else. I wish to God this kid could have stayed healthy, because he would have been a difference maker on the national team. He would have been a difference maker for Roma. He would have been a difference maker, in really helping to showcase that Italy's capable of creating unbelievably skilled players outside of backline. And so, you know, it's really sad because there's a lot of what might have been when it comes to his career pre-injuries.
Villa are in talks to sign Moussa Dembele, whose contract with Lyon expires in the summer. That's from our friends at 90 Minutes. Everton, Tom.
Former Celtic legend. Moussa
Yes.
Dembele.
Everton speaking to Rennes about a move for 20-year-old Ghanaian international Kamaldeen Sulemana. Wolves have agreed to a £3.3 million deal for West Ham defender Craig Dawson. Arsenal are interested in Bournemouth's Jadon Anthony as Mikel Arteta looks to add further wide options to his squad. Once again, from the four-letter paper, take the information at your own peril. Chelsea ready to rival Spurs for Brentford keeper David Raya. Spurs also keen on signing Jan Oblak from Atletico Madrid. Crystal Palace do not plan on losing both France U21 Michael Olise and Wilfred Zaha this summer, once again from the four-letter paper. Leicester is targeting Stoke centre-back Harry Stotar and have offered $10 million for the 24-year-old Australia international. It's from our friend Gianluca Di Marzio. And apparently the two main owners at Crystal Palace are not speaking to each other because they disagree about the multi-plan model. And Jarrett, breaking news.
Big Atlanta Spirit Group energy there, guys.
No question. Loudoun United, Jarrett, has signed Bryce Washington.
Good for him. Get a chance to play USL. I want to see if that's where he is. I was a big fan of Bryce Washington coming out of the academy because he was a horse of a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Played in college, played with the twos last year, and I didn't think he was at the right level. Like he didn't. His game didn't jump the way it needed to. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's still good enough to play the game professionally. I don't know if it's an MLS or not, but he's good enough to play the game professionally. Loudoun's going to be an interesting shout there. They're going through potential ownership change to stay. I would expect them to long term, if that's the case, to stay in USL. We'll see.
I mean, that's part and parcel to them having to stay at Segra is that they had to stay second division or higher. They could not drop to, say, USL League One and operate.
Yeah, I just mean, they had to stay for a certain number of years, from my understanding. But now, if they get sold outright, they just might stay in USL, and you know, DC might make their own MLS next team. Yeah. That's what I'm curious about in this particular scenario. We shall see.
Did you guys watch any of or see any of the highlights from the match in Saudi Arabia yesterday that was billed as
not a minute of it?
Not one moment.
I am proud of myself. Thank you very much. Yeah. It absolutely sounds like tooting my own horn and being like a smug contrarian, but nope, don't give a damn about Saudi Arabian, All-Star League nonsense. No. Not my cup of tea.
And not a friendly even. Not even a friendly. I did see where PSG's YouTube stream lost 350,000 viewers the moment that Messi and Ronaldo were subbed off.
Shocker.
Beautiful.
I am not surprised at that at all. I mean, you had a red card. It was 2-2 at the break, and I think it finished 5-4 or something like that. Something just
no idea.
Yeah, it's just good for you. If you guys had the chance, there was a Saudi businessman who bid 10 million rial, basically 2.2 million pounds, for a ticket to the friendly that included, they referred to it as the Beyond Imagination ticket.
Okay.
The buyer got the right to attend the winner's ceremony, enter dressing rooms, and meet, and according to The Guardian, the two men who for years have vied to be the world's greatest. So you got a meet and greet with Messi and CR37. You got the right to attend the winner's ceremony and walk through the dressing rooms. Would there be any situation that close where you would drop $2 million to do something like that? I mean, even if you didn't have the access today, if you were a person that was not in the media and couldn't get credentialed or whatever, is there any situation where either of you would drop 2 million bones to do something like that?
No.
I mean, probably not for them, but Also, first off, let's talk numbers. I need people to understand the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire is really stark. This is like the distance between planets we're talking about here. Like jumping from a million to a billion is a startling and incomprehensible difference for most mortals like ourselves. The numbers are very different. As I say that, depending on the players, if these guys are billionaires, then you're legitimately talking about like a $2 million. If you're a billionaire, is like not that much money for them at all.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't do it, but it's if they are already like multi-billionaires, then $1 million ain't gonna hurt them one damn bit.
No.
Let me. I'll tell this brief little story here.
Well, don't be brief. Don't be brief. I'll be back in a sec. Keep talking.
Okay. All right. So I used to work at V103. I used to work at V103 and Dave FM, right? So there's the CBS cluster, which is now 92.9 The Game, and still V103. My job, I was the video director, the video content director for our online. It was previously called WebMag, and now I think it's just a normal website. But I had to be at the station early in the morning for Frank and Wanda, and then late in the evening doing club events, like at the Velvet Room and God knows where else. Anywho, I interacted and hung out with celebrities on a regular basis. And I'm not saying that as like a hoo-hoo, look at me, because let me qualify this. To the letter, they are all miserable. All of them. Every damn one. When they come in and they're doing their radio drops, their interviews and all that, they're miserable.
Imagine your entire life being scheduled to the point where you're literally on constantly. You don't ever get a chance to let down your guard.
Correct. And so one night we're at the Velvet Room. It's BET weekend. Velvet Room's packed. I'm walking in, and Frank Ski is in the DJ booth, and he's working. So I'm hanging out in the DJ booth for a minute with him, and then they say, hey, look, the crowd's starting to get really stupid, so you need to go ahead and get to VIP, because we were doing a shoot for Moet and Chandon, and there's people are going to be popping bottles left and right over in VIP. Okay, great. So I go over, and I'm looking out from VIP out to the crowd. Michael Jordan comes in, and he has a booth over to the right, his own private booth. The crowd is so thick that Nelly cannot make his way. Nelly and his security team get trapped halfway on the dance floor, and they have to leave because they can't get through the crowd. I'm getting bumped around left and right, and then I look over, and Big Boy from Outkast waves me over and says, look, if you can hang out in our booth with us and take photos of us, you can just chill. Like, the food, drinks, everything is no problem. You can hang out with us. And so I'm like, absolutely. I get in the booth, I'm sitting there, and somebody bumps me from the back. It's Tracy McGrady, and Gabrielle Union is in the booth, over there with him and this whole crew of people. It's like the Celebrity Olympics. Everybody's getting champagne. Everybody's popping. Girls are doing like back wheels and like cartwheels and backflips and whatnot. People are hanging from the ceiling. I mean, it's absolute insanity everywhere you go. And at the old days, the Velvet Room had glass walls because the VIP was elevated, right? Like maybe 4 feet, 5 feet off the dance floor. And I hear this tink, 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 tink. And I look down, and there's this girl looking at me. I was married at the time. And she's like, get me up to VIP, get me up to VIP. And I put my wedding ring right against the glass, and I say, sorry, honey, married, no can do. And she says, your wife's not here.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, still not happening. So I go back to taking pictures, and somebody who was with Big Boy's team is this woman, and she looks like she would rather be anywhere else. She looks like she would rather be doing like an algebra test or taking somebody's SAT form. And she goes, that girl keeps trying to get your attention. I'm like, I know, she doesn't want me. She just wants this. And I hold up my VIP band, and she goes, well, that makes you one of the smartest people in here if you're not going to give in. And, you know, was absolutely just could not be more disinterested. Big Boy's hanging out. He's doing his thing. Everybody's there. But at some point in the evening, you look around, everybody's miserable because people are coming up to him nonstop. Sign this, take this, get this, grab this. And as soon as the cameras come along and I point my camera at him, it's like a light switch goes off. Yep. Boom. Arms are up in the air. Champagne bottles are up in the air. And as soon as it goes off, whoosh,
yep,
they're right back down again.
Absolutely.
And so the next day, Plies comes in. And so most younger people know Plies as he's more of an internet celebrity now than a rapper. But Plies was, in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, was a pretty popular rapper.
Thank you for explaining.
Yeah. And so he came, so he's in the studio, and I mean, we're all exhausted because we were all at the club until 2:00 in the morning. And so Plies is on air, and he's like, and he had this like real weird voice. He's like, and then as soon as the mic goes off, he looks at his business partner and goes, yeah, so, okay, look, I need to hear from the real estate agent about that place outside of Miami, because, you know, when we get to closing. And I have no poker face. So he looks over at me and he's like, and gives me some profound advice. He's like, let me tell you something, man. I can see that you're shocked. And the studio does not pay for this. They pay for Plies. And when Plies is no longer valuable to them, I'm done, right? So I got to have something to back me up. So I'm into real estate. I'm into asset acquisition. And I mean, he's just going on. And I'm like, this is absolutely amazing. He's like, he says, understand, when they are done with you, and he points to me, when they are done with you, you better have something backing you up. Mm-hmm. And then and the producer goes, okay, we're back on in 5, 4, 3. It's your boy Plies. And then he was right back in character again. And I'm telling you, it's a show. It's an act. They're very good at it. Nobody wants to be up at the radio station 5:30, 6:00 in the morning, surrounded by over-caffeinated hosts, trying to pitch their product, pitch whatever. They don't want to do it. It's a show, man. I'm telling you, it's all fakery. So for me to sit there and be like, yeah, I would spend $2 million to meet X celebrity. No, because it's a part, they have to be in character. It's not hanging out with them on a personal level. It's not hanging out with them. When you meet these celebrities and they're off camera and they're just them, it's a completely different experience than when you meet the celebrity when they're in character. And Messi, Ronaldo, all of them, I don't care how great they are. I don't care what their story is, or, you know, all of the glitz and glamour that surrounds them. At some point, they are a dude looking in the mirror, trying to figure out if they messed up their shaving, or if they messed up some kind of look that they were getting, or it all happens, man. So why spend $2 million to meet anyone? To me, it's a waste. It's a titanic waste of time. Spend your money on experiences where you can like go places and do things that other people can't do. That to me, but hanging out in a locker room with a bunch of guys who are like, yeah, I'm trying to get ready for this game, and like I got this random dude coming up, like, let's take a picture. They don't care about you, man.
Can I build on that even
Absolutely.
after game? Yeah. First of all, Nick is opening a portal to one of my favorite discussions, because my childhood was built in radio, and backstage and stuff all the time. Yeah, they're all on, and they're all trying to lock in different ways. I will say this, the only one I ever knew who came to the station, who like came into the booth to talk to my mom, separately, like wasn't on air to talk to her, was actually Dolly, because Dolly's a saint of a human
Oh yeah,
being.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Dolly is everything you think she is and more.
Belated happy
Uh,
birthday, by the way.
yeah, she's everything you think she is and more. Also, although when I was working at one of the country stations, we had Ron White come in, and for all like the redneck comedy tour, all that stuff, like Ron White, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He was so kind because like he had been over on Eagle, RIP Rhubarb.
Yes.
Still one of the most underappreciated in Atlanta's market in the last
Yeah.
30 years. That's neither here nor there.
Yes.
And like, so we basically sent our producer over. They're like, "Hey man, can you come on for like 10 minutes?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Otherwise, like, yeah, these guys are absolutely on. And as far as you want to get in the locker rooms, even after games, man, like we'll go in there, we'll talk to them, interview them. Guys like Brad Guzan, who is a leader and who is great to talk to because he'll give you really good answers. He'll be very honest with you. And a lot of these guys, though, when the game's done, look, they're exhausted. They just ran 7 miles. They want to take a shower. They want to check their phone. Darlington Nagby loved to slide out without talking to us, not because he didn't like us, but Nagby would go out there and his wife and kids would be out there, and you go see them. He's a family guy. I mean, that was what he wanted to do. So like, it's not nearly as fun as I think people think it is. Like,
No.
they want to talk to you. I mean, they might want to talk to you for 5 minutes. They might not want to, but they need to. But then after that, like, they're looking to get out. They're checking their phone. They're getting dressed.
Well, they're looking
to get on with their day because they're human beings, have a life.
Well, it's not even that. It's the whole marketing thing. Everyone's trying to get something out of you, right? And so like there's a big marketing show. I don't know if it still goes on here in town called the Super Show. And the Super Show is where like if it's all sporting goods and everything, and every like major retailer from like Moretz socks all the way up to Nike, or they come in and they showcase their latest goods and services and wares and whatever. And so my dad, because he like lives and breathes the sporting goods industry, always had passes to this stuff. And so I was in high school, and he says, "All right, you get a friend. I've got 3 passes to go to Dave and Buster's. It's the post Super Show party." Okay, great. So I get my friend and my friend KB, and we go up and hanging out. And Ronnie Lott walks up to us, and we were like one of the few kids that are there, right? So Kathy Ireland's walking around. You know, I may have almost got attacked by her security. I think I may have told this story before. That because I walked up, got on my knees, and said, "Miss Ireland," I started to lift up my shirt. Her security team like almost comes over the table, and I said, "Would you please sign my shirt?" And she's a lefty. She's a left hand. I remember she has massive hands, and so she like one hand grips my shoulder. I automatically transcend to a different dimension, and she writes, you know, "To Nick with love, Kathy Ireland," right across like my shirt on my chest, and I'm like. And so she was very sweet, could not have been better. And Ronnie Lott, though, sees us and he says, "Hey, I want to break away from all these like crazy sales guys, and let's play some video games, guys." And this is Ronnie Lott. So Ronnie Lott, the guy who's so tough that when he broke his pinky finger, they said, "Look, either we can cut it off and you can play next weekend in the championship, the NFC Championship game, or you can, you can be out and have surgery." He said, "Cut the finger off." Right. And so all you see publicly is this really, really tough guy. And we meet this really, really nice guy. So we're blown away. But as at some point, security comes over and says, "Look, it's like approaching 10 o'clock. We can't have anyone under the age of 18 here past this time. You got to go." And so we're leaving, and Ronnie Lott sees security escorting us out, and he comes up, and we saw tough guy Ronnie Lott, because he says, "I promised these boys that I was going to play video games with them, and I'm holding on to my end of the bargain, and you're making me a liar by telling me these kids got to go." Wow. And this security guard's like is seeing all 9 of his lives pass before his eyes, because Ronnie Lott is a massive, massive man, and instantly, because of my ridiculous survival instincts, I sense that this situation is going to get really out of control. And I say, "Mr. Lott, thank you so much, but I don't want to cause you any problems, man. I really appreciate. And KB saying the same thing, like, oh, thank you so much. He said, all right, how about we take some pictures? I signed some autographs for you. And, and he took all the pictures we wanted. He signed anything we wanted him to sign. And he could not have been more gracious, but he was so mad that he had to spend his evening shilling for these marketing people and doing all of these like meet and greets with these dudes who wanted nothing more than to exploit his image for cash. And I'm not blind. Ronnie Lott was making some money on this, but Ronnie didn't get to do the stuff he wanted to do because he was shilling.
Yeah.
And that really infuriated him. So even these experiences where you have an allegedly receptive audience understand that there's something else they would rather be doing. And I want to hang out with people who want to hang out with me. That is my big thing. And I have a million of these stories, Ricky. Fortunately or unfortunately.
That's why Freestyle Friday is what it is. All right. So we're going to go weekend schedule and we'll play cliffhanger. So we'll do Price is Right cliffhanger rules. If there's a game you want to talk about, go stop and you can talk about it. Friday, today, Bundesliga, RB Leipzig, Bayern Munich on ESPN Deportes at 2:30. You've got Tijuana and Tigres on ESPN Deportes at 10. Women's friendly, the second one, we'll probably have Bart Keeler on early next week, maybe Wednesday, just to kind of recap what we've seen so far. The second friendly with New Zealand, they're going to be getting, I think they were down 11 national team players from a first choice roster in match 1. We know what happened in the first match. Match 2 in New Zealand is tonight at 10 o'clock on Universo and on Peacock and on HBO Max. Outoffootball.com has PSG's women's team playing FC Fleury at 3 on the plus. It is RB Leipzig, Bayern Munich. It is Genk in the Jupiler League out of Belgium. Burnley and West Brom. Burnley right now leading in the championship. Vincent Kompany, coach of the year probably in the championship. That's at 3.
Good for him.
Las Palmas Mirandes is at 3, and Tijuana Tigres is on the plus. That is at 10 o'clock as well. Saturday, being in Espanol, Turkish Super League, Galatasaray, and Antalyaspor at 11. CBS Sports Network has the Women's Super League. That's where you can catch it, but it's on early at 6:30 in the morning. Man City, Aston Villa. FS2 has the Coupe de France, double 2 games going on at noon and 12:30. That'll be interesting. 1 channel, 2 games, a half hour apart. 12:30 NBC, Crystal Palace, Newcastle. West Ham and Everton. This will be the one to watch early on Saturday on USA. West Ham and Everton, both in the relegation zone. Reports are if West Ham loses to Everton, it is David Moyes. He's done at West Ham. My guess is it ends up being a 1-1 draw, and maybe both of them go, both Frank Lampard and David Moyes. ESPN Deportes has the quadruple header in La Liga. Vallecano Sociedad, Espanyol Betis, Atletico Madrid, Real Valladolid, and Sevilla and Cadiz at 3. Monterrey and Atletico San Luis is at 6. Fox Deportes, triple header in the Coupe de France starting at 9:30 in the morning. Telemundo, Liga MX, Guadalajara, Chivas and Toluca is at 10. 2 to NA, America, Puebla, Necaxa, Cruz Azul, doubleheader on Sabado Gigante. Universo has your simulcast of the Premier League, West Ham, Everton, Crystal Palace, Newcastle, 12:30. Guadalajara, Toluca's at 10. Univision has your matches as well that we talked about earlier. Out of football, Serie A Femenil, Sampdoria, AC Milan at 6:30 in the morning. Lyon and Montpellier at 3. Bundesliga is on the plus. Dutch Eredivisie is on the plus. Championship is on the plus. La Liga Santander is on the plus. Liga MX and the Scottish Cup, Jarrett, Celtic and Greenock Morton, St. Johnston and Rangers at 7 and at 12:30 on Saturday.
The Aberdeen game is going to be one to watch there. Aberdeen proceeded to lose 5-0 in the midweek. Really ugly 5-0 loss.
Aberdeen Crean, Jim Goodwin says he can still fix it.
Yeah, Aberdeen Crean. My God, we've turned Jim Goodwin into Tom Green, and I can't unmake that. Mm-hmm. I can't undo that. Like the toothpaste is out of the tube there. They put up really good fight against Rangers. Then that's a cup semifinal. Then they dropped 5-0 over the midweek. There was talk in the last day or two that Jim Goodwin's been having conversations with Cormac, who's in charge at Aberdeen, and that, his job may be on the line here, which again, we talked about this earlier this month. It'd be the second straight year where Aberdeen has a manager possibly as a dead man walking in the January window. Don't know how you're ever expected to improve a team when that is the situation.
Yep.
Now, all that being said, they have, let me see who they're playing. Let's see.
And while Jared is searching, Ricky Ricardo lets us know they have done the jersey picture. Leo Campagna is a permanent transfer to Inter Miami, by the way. So,
they have.
Yep, the picture is up. The jersey is up. He's holding it. So Leo Campagna is now official as well. He's officially official at Inter Miami.
Let me see Aberdeen real quick. Oh, they're playing Darvel FC in the Scottish Cup.
Yes.
If your question is, what is a Darvel FC? Congratulations, you're asking the right questions. It is a much lower tiered club.
Yes.
I would expect Aberdeen to win that. We're pretty comfortably, but on the off chance they don't, oh God, you're going to be able to hear the explosions from Atlanta.
Yes, you are.
So,
Yes.
Keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out on that one. Saturday, Nick, Serie A, Hellas Verona, Lecce, Salernitana, Napoli, Fiorentina, Torino. That's your triple header on Paramount Plus. Peacock has 5 games available. Liverpool, Chelsea, 7:30.
I'll just say this: Fiorentina, Torino is going to be a low key. It should be a low key fun game.
Okay.
If you were so.
And Emilio, Jim Goodwin would cry at the very concept of having the ball as much as Gonzalo Pineda wants to have the ball. Goodwin's eternal quote that will doom him is right after he took the job. He mentioned we need to get the defense better, and that's something I can do in a week's time.
Yeah.
And they've given up 5 or 6 more goals this year than they did with Stephen Glass over the same amount of time.
Yes. So every week is working on defense week for Jim Goodwin.
It's comparing apples to it's like comparing apples to bighorn sheep.
Yes.
In terms of the way that they view the game, the way they coach, it's hard to make that comparison. As far as talking, again, we to Nick's point earlier, different leagues have different rules about who's going to have to talk, whether it be coaches, whether it be leadership. And at Aberdeen, coach talks a lot after games. That's what they do.
That is true. Peacock, Liverpool, Chelsea, early Saturday morning, Bournemouth and Forest. That's a sneaky, interesting one. Leicester and Brighton, Southampton and Villa.
Oh, I see what you mean. More coaching, less talking. I see what you mean. I misread you. That's on me.
Crystal Palace, Newcastle at 12:30. Guadalajara, Toluca is at 10 p. Sunday, Turkish Super League's on beIN and beIN and Espanol. Also, Nick at 2:45 Sunday. Juve, Atalanta, Lazio, and Milan.
Huge Sunday. Huge Sunday. How's Juve responding? Vlahovic allegedly wanting out of Juve. He wants to take a move. He's not happy with the situation at Juventus. Who could blame him? To be honest, but big situation there as far as who stays where they are and who takes advantage of the opportunity to move up. Milan absolutely needs to get a W, nothing less. Absolutely needs a W. They had a really just trash Supercopa showing, got drilled by Inter. So they need to figure out how to start scoring goals again and doing so quickly.
Yes. Also on the board for your Sunday, Arsenal Man U's at 11:30 on NBC. Man City Wolves is at 9 a.m. Deportes has the quadruple header from La Liga. Athletic Club Real Madrid is the end. That's the caboose at 3 o'clock. Coupe de France on Fox Deportes doubleheader. Telemundo has your simulcast. Tuda NA has Querétaro and Atlas, Pachuca and Juarez at 6 and 8. ESPN Plus has Belgium, Germany, the Dutch Eredivisie, the Championship, La Liga Santander, La Liga Smartbank, and Scottish Cup, Hibs and Hearts at 9 a.m.
That's actually a pretty big rivalry, too. That could get stupid.
And then on Paramount Plus, it is the quadruple header in Serie A, Sampdoria Udinese, Monza Sassuolo, Spezia Roma, Juve Atalanta, English Women's Super League doubleheader, Chelsea, Liverpool, Brighton, Arsenal. Peacock has your other matches on Sunday, Leeds, Brentford, Arsenal, Manchester United. And Nick, Wanted to let you know about this from our friends at The Score. This just came up a couple of minutes ago. From our friends at Agence Press. Prosecutors at the Italian Football Federation asked Friday that Juve be docked 9 points as the governing body's court mulls whether to reopen a trial over suspicious football transfers. Juve, 3 other Serie A clubs, and 62 people, including former Juve chairman Andrea Agnelli, were acquitted by the FIGC's court last year of using transfers to artificially boost their balance sheets. However, FIGC prosecutors who brought that case are again seeking sanctions against Juve after studying documents from the separate criminal investigation of the club's accounts carried out in Turin. Source at the FIGC confirmed to AFP the points deduction had been requested and said that a decision on the reopening of the sporting trial would arrive by Friday evening. I'm
not shocked. Remember when this first happened, what I said?
Mm-hmm.
Should they be punished? Yes. Will they be punished? Probably not. They're probably not, because Juventus and the Agnelli name carry weight in a unique way when it comes to Italy. I know we're up against the blender here, but long story short, after World War II, Gianni Agnelli, who had fought the Russians, the Soviets to the east, knew what was coming, as they had taken Romania, as they had taken all of the what later became known as the Eastern Bloc. They were trying to get into Italy, and they were using political propaganda and radicalizing individuals on the ground to make that happen. Sound familiar? But what happened was Agnelli, seen this happen, went to the U.S. government and said, let's make a deal. You help back fiat financially. I will build factories, and we will put Italy back to work and prevent the hammer and sickle from flying over Rome. And the U.S. government said, yes, we will absolutely help you do that. Everything that has stemmed from Italy's economic rebirth post-World War II begins and ends with Gianni Agnelli and the Agnelli name. There are a lot of old people in the courts, a lot of old people in the positions of power who have never forgotten the power and the weight of El Avvocato, Gianni Agnelli. And of course, that passes on to his kids. So they are protected, to steal a line from a movie, they are protected from on high by the devil himself. There's nothing you can do to the Agnellis to shake that grip in the North. So if this was Napoli who was doing this, they would get hammered. If it was Lecce doing this, hammered. Rome, maybe, probably. But because it's Juve, because it's the Agnellis, man, ain't nothing happening to them.
Prosecutors have also asked for Agnelli to be banned for 16 months. Former sporting director Fabio Paratici, now at Spurs, could face a suspension of 20 months and 10 days. So that is the latest out of that. And before we go, Jarrett, what else is on your mind as we head into the weekend?
Man, not a lot. It feels like a weird weekend. I know I haven't been on the last 2 days really to talk since the Anton Walkes news broke. Not that there's really anything to say that hasn't been said, other than just you don't really have words when something like that happens because you don't ever expect it to, and you don't ever want to have to talk about it. And you don't want to have to imagine, just how tough it is for his family, for teammates, for friends, around the league, not just in Atlanta, but even around the globe. Man, hopefully the rest of the news we get around the league, and not just Atlanta, but around the league, is just, some good news the rest of the way, because Lord knows we could use it.
Yeah, no doubt. Statement before Nick, but you'll get last word in just a sec. Statement out from Arthur Blank this morning. It is a difficult time for our beloved soccer community across the globe as we mourn the loss of Anton Walkes after joining Atlanta United in our 2017 inaugural season. Anton soon became a fan favorite and a trusted teammate, serving as team captain several times during his second time with the club. While we enjoy the competition the games bring, it is the talented, passionate athletes that we are bonded to, and it is in these tragic moments we're reminded of the impact these special players have on so many. Anton will always be in our hearts as a cherished member of Atlanta United, and I pray Anton's loved ones, his Charlotte community, and his United Kingdom family and friends find peace in knowing how loved he was by so many. May we all rejoice and celebrate the man Anton was and be reminded of the positive legacy he leaves at such a young age. That comes from Arthur Blank, owner and chairman of the Blank family of businesses, and that just came out a couple of minutes ago. Once again, Nick, you get last word here on a Freestyle Friday, covering a lot of different stuff today.
Yeah, just a reminder, Zaniolo won't be called up for Roma against Spezia because the transfer, more than transfer rumors, I would say at this point. They're trying to make sure that he is wrapped in padding and not going to take any potential injuries on the way out.
Bubble wrap that man.
Bubble wrap that man. But look, it's been a really weird week, man. And it hasn't been, obviously tremendously tough in a lot of ways. So when we're all tired and we're all worn down, news like what we've had this week can test you. It can really test your limits and your patience. Please try to be patient with the people out there, even if they're not patient with you. Please try to be kind to as many people as you can, even if they are not necessarily kind to you. The reason being is that we never know what people are dealing with. We never know what people are going through. And I would rather be known as the nice guy who tried to be nice, who did his best anyway to be nice and to take care of those around him. And I know that, we're I think largely very good people at our core. So let's try to focus on those positive things. Outside of that, man, just take care of each other. Know that we love you, and we're all, we're here for you. So we'll be back. That's it. God willing, and the creek don't rise. We're gonna be back on Monday. So with that, I'm stepping back. John, Jared, you guys are amazing.
Jarrett, send us home for another week.
Mucho platio.
What he said. It's the end of the show, and that means that we get to run this. We'll be back at it again Monday morning at 9:05. Thanks for being a part of the show. Thanks for being a part of the family, as you always are. And we'll be back at it again Monday morning. So be safe. Have a safe weekend. We'll catch up with you next week. Thanks for being a part of SDH.